What's going on, guys? Chuck here with another awesome Blu-ray purchase today. I got a new release from Vinegar Syndrome. Not only that, but it's the first release in their new sub-label they've just put out called, bear with me on this, Cinématographie, I believe it is. If I'm, I believe it's in French. Very hard to pronounce. Something I love Vinegar Syndrome, but they keep putting these labels with names I can't pronounce, like Melusine or Melusine. Have their adult label now. Now this Cinématographie. Regardless, that first release, which is a really good one, and it is 1980s Little Darlings. Not many are familiar with this film. I mean, it's got a pretty good reputation. It's I think a lot of people will. I should say, I think sometimes it's more mistakenly categorized as just another teen sex comedy, which wasn't the intentions, but it's actually much more to it than that. Little Darlings is moved 1980. When was it filmed? I mean, the idea of the producers of Paramount, they wanted basically Meatballs or Animal House with teenage girls, and like I said, that was the intention, and to some degrees they get that, but there's much more in this film than that. Little Darlings is the story of a group of girls, but mostly two, that being Angel, played by Christy McNichol in a fantastic performance, and Ferris, played by Tatum O'Neal. And they're at summer camp, and the whole, it becomes an issue of these little group of girls, and it's coming of age, and the whole concept of losing your virginity. And of course, a bet is put together by the one promiscuous. I have questions about that girl, one who knows it all. The girl saying that which one of these girls, Ferris or Angel, is going to lose their virginity first, and that's your crux of the film, and that's basically what these girls are trying to do. And up to that point, you have a lot of these silly, your typical teenage, sex comedy thing, which is, it's interesting to get this from a young girl's perspective. Because most of these movies, let's be honest, they're all aimed at the male-driven, males trying to lose virginity, and it's all fun and yay, we're going to do this, and hijinks ensue. In this case, I mean, it's interesting to see it from the young girl's point of view, and realizing the pressure of losing your virginity is there, and to fit in, to be accepted by your peers or whatever. And not only that, but just realizing that it's not just about the act. There's more to it. And then there's the idealized thought of what losing your virginity is, juxtaposed with the actual reality of losing virginity. And I think it's all played very well. It's a very good performance. It's a lot of fun. So again, this is a film, it doesn't get talked about, mainly because, from what I understand, it disappeared for a good 40 plus years. And there's great, on the special features, a great hour-long interview with the director, whose name's escaping me right now. Let me see if I can. Ron Maxwell, who talks about it, how, the movie, for certain reasons, which, it, after his initial release on video, had to be pulled, and it can never get put back out there in home video for about 40 years. Like I said, it wasn't until I think it's Paramount Plus streamed it recently in the last year, so that you actually got the theatrical version of this film, which basically comes down to, when the film was released, he had all these great songs in here, stuff from like John Lennon, oh goodness, names I can't. Blondie, and a Supertramp, a couple other songs were in there. But apparently the mistake was that the lawyers only licenses for theatrical use only. So when, and this is 1980, so no one's thinking about home video yet. Home video was in its infancy, and it wasn't quite a thing, so that licensing wasn't put out there. So the initial release on video. VHS had that, but they had to pull it because they didn't have license for it. So it was put it back out for a short time with without the music, or either it was put on there with generic music. Actually, I think that it might have been out there with generic music, or it wasn't put out at all. One of the two. But it was also the case before that. You only see there was a TV cut of this film, which was truncated a lot according to the director. Again, music cues were gone. They put in generic music, which might be the case for the VHS version also. Any references to losing virginity or anything of that nature was edited out, edited away, or dubbed with other lines to take away the whole point. And of course, the idea of this was a widescreen film. It was cropped into your 1980s television square, which really loses the framing as for the director. So it's a version he is not cared for, which he also said he was not consulted with as far as re-edits made. So that's an issue. But it's a very interesting story. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself on these special features, but nonetheless, Dual Darlings is a film that hasn't only been seen, and I think it deserves to be seen and reevaluated. Which I think a lot of people who really sit down and seen it and understand it, will get that that it's more than just a sex comedy. It's a lot deeper than that. And I think if you haven't seen it, you definitely owe yourself to a rewatch of it or a watch of it to check it out. So this is also a 4K release, by the way, of the from Vinegar Syndrome and their cinematography. I'm probably butchering that, but whatever. Like I said, and they've done a really nice job of this packaging. I do have one small, tiny, insignificant little gripe, but I'll get that in a minute. But let's take a look at this right here. So here's the front end. Your side, the spine here, and your back with this. There's some little artwork, and you see you've got your little tab here. This actually is a pull-out. What you've got is like a nice canvas style, almost book-like. In a lot of ways, it kind of looks like maybe a diary, but not. I don't know. But it is open up as a book. It is a little booklet inside. You see, here's the label, the cinematography. So you open it up. We've got again. It is a nice book with little essay on the film and pictures. Crispy Nickel. Yeah, Crispy Nickel really good. I mean, everyone is good, but Crispy Nickel really stands out. And also in this film, she mentioned you have like the one of the very earliest films, maybe a second film of Matt Dillon, and you have a younger Armand Assante as the two male leads of this film. See more photos, and a lot of the back of this is a Great American Teen Movie. I think it's back ended with a lot of, besides the essays, you're gonna have a lot more pictures in it. So, but this is really nice, a nice little booklet, and in the back you've got your discs layered on top of each other. Now there is a gap there, so they're not touching; they're separated. But you have your 4K, and then your Blu-ray, and your 4K is going to have your obviously the film, and then there's like 2 audio commentaries, and then the Blu-ray has the film, the audio commentaries, plus it has the hour-long interview with the director, and it also has extra scenes that were for the television cut, and then an introduction to those scenes by the director, where he took, basically about 11 minutes or so, talking about his going back and seeing he wasn't a fan of him initially, went back and see him kind of. Maybe things there were some things he could have put in there, and this kind of gives you more of an explanation in behind those. But the hour-long making of is actually very fascinating. When I make an interview with him about the making of the drawings and all the things he went through, and a lot of stuff with the studio, and how they were behind him, and then when they saw the screening, it's like, okay, this is way too serious. As we want this, we wanted, like I said, this is supposed to be Meatballs or Animal House, whatever. And so what he had to go through with recuts, and then of course going on to the rights issues, the television version, all these different things, which is fascinating to me that this film has this kind of history. And a little surprised that the television version isn't on here, because a lot of times these boutique labels will do stuff like that. But knowing that it's obviously the director himself is not a fan of this version, he probably wouldn't, want it on there. But even though he does say it's good to see, just to see those things they cut out, and for other than that, it's really nothing, because the theatrical version is the proper version of the film. But it still would be kind of nice, because I think, because like even the scenes they put on there are more scenes he described there in that television version that they don't show in these extra cuts, and the scenes they show have a time code on them, so they're not really like actual it could be inserted or whatever. They're just raw daily footage, I think. But I think it would be nice to have that television cut just as a comparison and see how they flow, because he mentioned last time was even re-edited and shuffled around. Some scenes were turned around, but again, it goes back to what he said. When you make cuts like that for television or whatever, all the versions, the studio, whoever's supposed to get in touch with the director and give him a shot at doing this, and he was never notified, never made aware of these changes. So I can understand if he would not want that, because it's he had no say in it whatsoever. But that's just great. Now, let me get this. You see, you got the little tab there, so you want to slide this in here. That way, get your little ribbon tucked back in there. My one teeny tiny little itsy bitsy gripe, if you will, is that on the L card here, with all this, you see here there is a limited edition numbering on here, which is cool. I like that. However, it's nowhere on here at all. There's no, that on the bottom here or something, which they've been nicer. They put it on the L card, which is disposable. Why? I like that you have some kind of record of that number on the actual shell itself, or even on the Blu-ray, or actually no, somewhere in there. But there's not, and then it kind of bothers me. I know some of their other limited editions. One I can think of is like that Legend of Boggy Creek. It's got a number on it, and it's on the actual case, so you can see it's there, so you won't lose it. But to put it on the here, where this is again disposable, so I won't have a record knowing this is 1,071 of 8,000, kind of bums me out a bit. Again, it's not a big deal. It's first world problems, but it's just something I like to have recognized on the actual, case itself. But that being said, it's still a fantastic release. A great first release for this new label. Again, the 4K looked great. It was a beautifully shot film. The sound is simple, like 2.0 mono, but it sounded really good, very clear. Everything looked great. I had a lot of fun. Except not a lot of features, but the main one, the director interview was very informative and very interesting. But overall, a great first presentation for this new cinematography. I'm gonna keep saying that. Hope it's right. Sub-label from Vinegar Syndrome. I'm excited to see what they put out next in this label. But this is a good one. Again, there's also the fact that, to get this theatrical cut and home video for the first time in 40 years for the director, like I said, it's recently put on streaming on Paramount Plus, but to get this at home is pretty cool. And again, it's a film that I remember seeing on TV, actually. So I know I didn't see anything right. And only bits and pieces of it. First time I really got to sit down and watch it. I remember, being intrigued by it. And of course, people talk about it has a reputation because you're young girls talking about sex or whatever, and losing their virginity. It's a pretty intense subject matter, but it's handled really well with these girls. I think they're all great. I think you also have on a side note, Cynthia Nixon, I believe is, in her first role. Of course, she was going to be Sex in the City. She's one of the girls at Flower, I think her name is. Hope I get it right. She's the hippie girl, which is she's really cute. In a fun sense. Don't get me in trouble. But again, all the performances of the girls are great, and at home cast, But also, I noticed too about this camp that they're in, there is apparently no rules. These girls do whatever the hell they want, and there's only like Armand Asante is the only authority figure. I guess as a camp counselor, but you see her very, very briefly. But these girls just run amok all over the place. It's crazy. But anyway, that is my thoughts. And, take a look at this great new release from Vinegar Syndrome. And again, one more time, stay with me. Cinematography sub-label. Check out Little Darlings if it's still available, if you can get it. And again, if you can't get it here and you want to see, if you don't really want to put out the money for the set, like the director said, it was on Paramount Plus. Is it still now? I don't know. I hope so, because I think it really should be seen. If you've never seen it, I think it's worth checking out. A little touchy, today, for subject matter for today's time, but the guys are cool for the most part. Dealing with especially when you're talking about Tatum O'Neal's character trying to seduce the adult Armand Asante, but it's the guys are good. There's nothing icky, not over. Like, we're not talking. It doesn't get into private lessons territory as I discussed about previously, anything like that. Anyway, that is it for now. If you enjoy this, click thumbs up, share, subscribe, leave me a comment below. Let me know if you've seen Little Darlings, if your thoughts on it. If you've picked up this, this collector set. If you know how to pronounce cinematography, if I'm saying it wrong or right, whatever the case may be, let me know. Or just say hi. I will always take hi. So until next time, this is Chuck saying I will see you on the other side.